to adjust that camera just a little bit. I notice I'm a little red. That filament's acting up again in the light, but I think you can probably deal with that, right? I hope so. Okay. No, I'm not drinking. No, I haven't been out in the sun. It's just that light. Hi, everybody. It's the 19th of October, 2021. And actually, I'm a little surprised that I'm doing this live stream. Thank you for letting me know there, Diane, that I'm 5 by 5. Thank you very much. And welcome everyone as you come in. Hi, Roosevelt. Thank you for being here. Uh, I was on the phone today with Felicia Lockhart. Actually, we were texting back and forth because, as most of you know, I had set up or I had announced that there was going to be that conference this weekend in Salt Lake City, that conservative conference. We Can Act, I think, is the name of the group that was doing it, and it was called the Liberty Conference, if I'm not mistaken. And I was asked to give that information out, and I looked. At first, I didn't know who was going to be in it, and then when I found out, I was a little concerned, actually, to tell you the truth. Not because the subject matter that they would cover would necessarily be bad, but because it isn't. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that I agree with many of the things that they want to talk about there. The problem, however, is that, to be honest, when I went on to Alex Jones this morning, as most of you know, and I saw him again pointing fingers at everybody but Trump for the situation that we're in now, I just lost it. Okay, I just did. And then I started looking at really who was going to be at this conference, and I'm primarily homing in on General Flynn and the statements that he has made and the things that he has done, the questions I have about what his real agenda is and what he is really about. And then the whole thing isn't really about the subject matter that they're discussing. It's going to be another platform to push Trump, who I consider to be probably, if not if not the most evil man in the world right now, for doing the pretenses and the drama that he's doing and the machinations to injure so many people, especially with his OWS, as you all are very well aware. If he's not the most evil, he's right up there as far as I'm concerned. And I just, AJ's done a lot of good work, but he's called out Trump in a very minor ways a few times. But this morning, that was it. That was it for me. I just can't support that thing going on in Salt Lake. I just can't, because they're going to be pushing the person of Trump. They're going to be talking about all the things that they have, all those subjects about how Trump is their champion, and I just that's done. I'm not doing it anymore. So I went on to Twitter and I took down those notices that I put up about this thing. I went on Gab, and then I also did the video this morning on YouTube. I'm very, very distraught. I have, what I consider to be American conservative constitutionalists, Christians, that I have been, even though they don't want to necessarily have contact with me, I've tried to promote them and their positions for years, only to find out that they're more about uh, what I'm going to call, and this isn't craft, this isn't secret society talk, although they use it quite a bit. They're not just after their rational self interest. I can't believe that anymore. When the information that has come out about this entire situation with the GMIs and the background on all of this that's happening, I can't say it all here. To not take a firm stand against Trump makes no sense to me. And I guess my position makes no sense to me, so much so that I've actually been called a moron by some of these people that I thought had a little more uh, grace and a better vocabulary, and certainly a little more respect for somebody with an opposing opinion who has documented, explained all the problems with this orange man. Yeah, I might as well call him that, for years now. I didn't just pull this like a hair out of my butt, right? Remember, I used to be a cop and a soldier, so sometimes I start talking pretty forwardly, I guess I'll say. Let me grab a drink. Again, this is just water tonight, all right? I'm very disappointed that after all the evidence, I don't care about how he pretended to do something about the economy. When you look at the whole plan, it was just like I explained it before. He was the guy in the game who set the ball up for Biden and the New World Order to kick it down on the other side and to make a goal. And that's how I view it. And I'm very disappointed with all of the people that are still. I mean, I've seen a few of them caveat a little bit. You know, well, if he doesn't repent of the mistakes he made in his first term, if he continues to make the same mistakes, I can't support him. They weren't mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. They were not mistakes. So, I was talking to Felicia about this, and I said, you know, Felicia, I'm really worn out at this point. I'm really disgusted, and and I feel like going and becoming a recluse again, not a hermit, a recluse, because I've had 40 something, 50 something odd years, actually longer than that, because a lot of you know my background and my family connections, to see how this thing is played out. And I've given people the benefit of the doubt 90% of the time. And unfortunately, it's always come to bite me in the ass. I've regretted it almost every single time I've done it. And Trump was no exception. As you know, I gave him a year and he was still doing this crap, and I finally pulled away from him. So, I don't know. Is it really doing any good? Is it really doing any good? So I thought I'd come on tonight and blow that little bit of steam off so that you can see I really am upset about this. My anger level is higher than it's been in a long time because I'm tired of the hypocrisy, the deceits. We have all of this going on, and what politician has stood up and said we can't do this? Which brings up this point. So I was on Twitter tonight. I shouldn't have been. I should have just tossed it aside. And I noticed that the Democrats have said that they will not allow a bill to pass that would protect Social Security recipients from having their benefits taken from them if they refuse the GMI. Well, I'm not surprised about that. I mean, that makes sense. If they're going to fire nurses, doctors, soldiers, et cetera, right? For not taking, I mean, it was just a matter of time. And now they haven't done it yet, but they're saying that they will not allow a bill to be passed that would protect Social Security recipients from being required to have the GMI to keep their benefits. Now, I really don't give a rat's ass, okay? I really don't give a rat's ass because being a part of their system is frankly condemning in all shapes, forms, and situations. However, people paid into that system for years and were told that that was their retirement. Now, it's the whole thing with FDR started off bad. Okay, it was all a scam from the beginning. Even my family's friend, General and then President Eisenhower, went into the Social Security funds in the 50s and took out money to help rebuild Europe, took your money out to rebuild what had happened in Europe. Now, some people would say, well, that was very benevolent of him. You don't take from one person and give to, that's called legalized theft. Well, even Eisenhower did that. And he did another thing I didn't appreciate, and that is he supported the overthrow of the Guatemalan president in the 1950s because the United Fruit Company was upset that the president of Guatemala was going to make sure that the peasants got their land back. So even close associates of my family have done things that I find reprehensible. So getting back on the Social Security thing, yeah, this is bad, but it doesn't surprise me. I remember back, and I've talked about this before, back in the 60s or 70s, somewhere, and I think it was actually in junior high, when I was in junior high. They had an exercise, and I've talked about it before, where they said, okay, you've got 5 people on a boat, and you've only got food and water for 3 days. Who are you going to throw overboard? That was, and I didn't really know what it was about at the time, but I didn't like the exercise. I thought it was really inhumane. Okay, is how I felt about it. All right. Well, those were the baby boomers, and we were being told that that's how we're going to be treated. So all of this has been, you've heard Gates say it, we can't spend money on grandma because we have to have the schools open. He has been about reducing the living. He's talked about it openly. And now he's come out and he's doing this thing, which he's not even a medical doctor. He's out there pushing a thing to save you from a disease. Really. And everybody understands the hypocrisy and the nonsense of everything that's coming out of that. I'm not gonna bore you with it. However, what I am going to say is this: that it doesn't surprise me that they had to get rid of those that they promised this social safety net to. That was really the only option they had. And this little exercise in the 60s was telling the baby boomers that, hey, you know what? You're not going to make it to your natural death date. We're gonna help you along here a little bit. We're gonna throw you overboard. They were upfront about it then. Even had us working on the exercises to try to decide who to throw off the boat. I don't know if any of the rest of you remember that, but that's the deal. I see we could talk about a lot of things tonight. I understand that, and I'm not going to really do a lot on the chat, but I had to come on because some people are really upset. One lady in my Twitter line, she says, "This is terrible. I'm going to starve. We're going to starve." That's the idea. They're doing it to the third world. They're doing it to the aged. They're doing it to the young. You're not considered, you're considered a consumer. They don't consider you to benefit society. So you're non essential. And who started out with that term? The great and wonderful Donald J. Trump started out with that term. He set it up. Yeah, useless eaters, worthless eaters. Yeah, the non essentials, which is a Marxist term, by the way, in case you didn't know. So our whole government has been working towards this, pretending to be the promoter of truth, justice, and freedom and liberty, when in reality, everything they were doing was to try to put you into slavery. And it's been a lie, at least for the last 60 years. And arguably, it goes back even to our founding. I'm not going to get into that history. I'm not going to talk about that, because what we've got to consider about is what's happening right now. You notice the title of my video tonight is Bikers, Soldiers, Cops, and the Remnant. And as usual, I'm going to touch a little bit on the scriptures tonight, not directly, but that term remnant is where that comes from. The evil entities that are in this world, both seen and unseen, consider you the enemy and they want you dead. Not just enslaved, they want you dead. Anybody that can't see that now is fooling themselves. I said the other night that in the Garden of Eden, there was the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil amongst all of the other trees. And I explained what those two things were. And I said that possibly, well, actually, in most of the manuscripts and the ancient texts, it really was, pardon me, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say it this way. As I said the other night, it probably was this adultery that took place, okay? And there were some other factors that were involved in that. But that's not just allegorical. There were some real points to that, and this would be one of them. We're seeing it again today. Because the promise, as most of you know, was if you do this little thing, you won't die. You'll have your eternal life. But more than that, you'll see as the gods are. You'll be gods. That's happening today. You're told now that if you don't receive this pharmakia, that your life will end, basically. That's what they're saying with all of this going on. All of this attack of the supply chain, your work, the money supply, everything. Everything. It's a war on you, okay? Plain and simple, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I've been saying that for 18 months now. So, here we are. And they are coming after you, and they do want to destroy you. Which is essentially what happened in the Garden of Eden, because they lost their eternal life. They were cut off from the tree of life. They were cut off from God. Well, today, they now say that if you don't go along with this evil system under a pretense, and I'm not going to explain what that pretense is, you all should know, that you won't be able to survive in this world because they're going to cut everything off from you. So it's kind of reversed. If you don't do what they require of you, you will lose your life. If you do what they require of you, you'll be able to play the game for as long as they decide you can play it before they whack you. And the promise is you'll be free of disease. And we know that isn't true either. They're changing our DNA. That's real obvious now. Anybody who's looking at this thing at any level of sophistication at all knows that that's what's happening, which is an attack on God's creation. Whether or not you believe in God doesn't matter. Do you really want to be a cyborg? Some people say, well, heck yeah, why not? You don't understand. You no longer have your individuality as a cyborg. You're gone. You're nothing more than a program on a computer. So, we see the people resisting all around the world. Not so much in the United States. We're too fat, lazy, and happy, right? By and large. I mean, there are a few that are doing it, right? Around the world, they understand that it seems like what the real danger is. But here, we have this concept that, it won't ever get that bad here, when in fact it's going to get worse. Because upon my house shall it begin, and from my house shall it go forth. And I talked about that the other night too. Because all of this did start here. New York, London, but principally the United States, in the Department of Defense basically the government. I'll just leave it at that, because if I say too much, it'll probably kick me off of here. So what's happening in the world did happen because of what's happening here, and the judgments have come here, and they're going to get worse. So what's happened? Well, in the last little while, we see people that are standing up. No, I'm not going to do it. In the military, cops, lots of cops, we're seeing that, which really, really impresses me. Yeah, I saw that. Dan Bongino agrees to lose his radio job. Good on him. And Dan and I have had some problems, okay? Because for one, he will not, like AJ, come out and blame Trump for this. And Trump can't hide behind he didn't really understand what Fauci was doing. That's BS, and we've shown it was BS. He was in on it from the beginning. Probably as early as 2017, as many of us have researched, and maybe even before that, because he was showing up and stuff many, many years ago. But I don't want to go there. I appreciate Dan Bongino saying that, but he's got to really call the whole thing out, and I doubt that he will. He's going to be like all those other conservative, Trump supporters I've talked about that will not call Trump out. So at any rate, we have all of these people that are standing up and saying no, doctors, nurses. Now, they're not as many as I think are going along with the system, okay? But this is what I want to tell you, and I tweeted this out earlier, about maybe a half hour to 45 minutes ago, and I really believe it, okay? And you notice I'm wearing my biker shirt. And you might say, bikers? Well, they're drug dealers. They deal with prostitutes. They do this. They do that. But they're really strong in their determination. As are people like police officers, military. And you'll have bad apples and good apples in there. Well, guess what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen? The evil forces think that they're throwing us out of their system. They think that they're separating us out of their system. And in my estimation, they're deceiving themselves. Remember, there's a scripture that says that they will fall in the pit that they dig for others. They aren't separating the weak out from themselves because they are the weak. They are the compromised. They are the wicked. They are the evil. They're not strong. They're not separating out the weak from them. They're separating out the strongest amongst us, the very strongest amongst us. And for that, you need to take comfort. I'm not saying that everybody that's fought this thing to this point and will go beyond will be able to endure it to the end. This is not going to be easy. But what I see happening is this. We knew there would be a separation, and I've talked about the necessity of us embracing us, being separated out from these evil ones. Let them go ahead and do this because they're convicting themselves. So, how do we find those who are like-minded like us? Because they are being persecuted like us. They are being threatened like us. They are being ostracized like us. So what's actually happened here is that this separation is occurring, and the evil has actually separated themselves from us. But as I have often said, I wanted us all to pray for two things, right? I've always said prep, pray, and stay out of the way. Keep your situational awareness on high. Keep your eyes on the horizon, ears to the ground. I know all that. But I've also said I wanted us to pray for two things, deliverance and a refuge. The deliverance is in our, and I'm not saying God won't do other things, but our deliverance is in our uniting with those who have been rejected as we have. Our refuge is in gathering together with those who have been rejected like we have. There's a phrase in the Old Testament, it talks about the outcasts. Under this current system, we are the outcasts. I'm not sure how to do it. I still think that a competent state authority has to stand up where we can gather, but I don't know how it's going to work. All I know is that all of these good people, well, they didn't like that, did they? Oh, they didn't like that at all. So I got back. Yeah, let's see if you guys can hear me back on now. Roosevelt, if you'll let me know if I'm back up. Yeah, they shut me down. They sure as heck did. They shut me down. Wow. So I am back. Wow. That was the most direct attack I think I've had in a long time. I must be really stirring something up here. Well, at least I can continue now. What I had to do was when it shut down, I had to go right to the control panel and put it in that I wanted to resume, and it took a few seconds for it to come back up, as you can tell. So let me get back to where I was. Thank you for hanging on and not running away. I appreciate that. So what I'm saying is, the very strongest have been thrown out of the system. The outcasts, the very strongest, have been thrown out. And there's another term for that, and it's called the remnant. Those who endure these things and stand for righteousness and truth, even when it's not convenient for them to do so. They are the remnant. They are the ones that have the seal of God in their foreheads and in their hearts. So what I'm saying is, I don't know how the deliverance is getting out of the system, making it uncomfortable for us, and they're throwing us out. We're not just leaving. They're causing us to be thrown out of the system. They are persecuting the righteous. Now, I was talking about the bikers. I'm not saying that we're all perfect. I'm not saying that we're all, Jesus, uh, uh, we have all of his attributes. I mean, that's why we're here, is to learn those things. So my concept of righteousness is basically that you try to do the right thing. Okay, I'm just going to keep it that simple. So it can be the bikers, it can be the soldiers, right? I talked today about never going in the military. People have to stay out of the military. It's done. It's over with. It's an evil system now. They're throwing the good people out so that they can come after Americans. So I'm not saying everybody's perfect that's getting thrown out, but God is seeing that they're willing to stand against an evil that is the most evil thing this world has ever seen. The most evil thing this world has ever seen. So my feeling is that they're throwing us out. We're not just turning our backs. We've tried to work in their system, and they're throwing us out. So now what we have to do is to figure out a way to gather together, to support each other, and they will war against us. It says that the beast will war against the saints and wear them out. Right? And defeat many of us. But we can pull together. I don't know where, I don't know how. But the dividing lines have been made. Just the way Jesus was rejected, so has the world rejected us. And we, who tried to live in the world but not be of it to the best of our ability, they have cast us out. They have made us the outcasts. They have, by what they have done, defined not only who and what the remnant is, but these evil ones, like Biden, Gates, Trump, Fauci, Macron, the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau, all of these countries that are supposed to be the bastions of liberty, who have turned out to be the most draconian, they have, in fact, condemned themselves. And we have to look at it that way. We have to look at it that we are fortunate that we are being gathered out of that system, that they are gathering themselves out from us. And we need to bond together. I would prefer it to be in a place, and they will war against, the evil will war against that place. But we need to somehow figure out how to get together. And I don't know what the answer to that is right now. Holy is set apart. That's right. Holy, the word holy is kodesh in Hebrew. And it simply means stand aside, stand apart, be separate. It's not the, out down on your knees, that kind of holiness. That's not what it means. Okay. Yeah, this is a virtual campfire. You're actually right. Is that Liza Jean that said that? Yes, Liza Jean. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to come on here and tell you that I see what's happening. I understand, and this is very frightening when they're threatening to take away your sustenance because you've paid into it your whole life, and now they're going to refuse it to you. Actually, what they're doing is they're threatening, they're violating their own contract, but that should surprise no one. That requirement was never in the original contract, right? Not to any of us, that we would have to submit to something like that in order to keep our benefits. So they've added to the contract one side. It's called ex parte in court. They've altered the contract, and they really can't do that in contract law. But of course, they're evil. They're outlaws, and they do as they please. Yeah, Stephen Miller, you're right. The Amish are not totally outside the system. Nobody is. There's a guy on Twitter. His name's Jeff Sekarak. I hope I say his name right. I think he actually comes on here and watches my things every once in a while. Um, and I really like his posts because they have a lot of sense. They tell you how to act and what to do and how to feel inside. And I really like him. Okay, so you might consider that he still lives in the system to some extent, but he's not totally dependent on it. Okay, he might buy food. Pardon me. He might buy food from a local store. Uh, he has, I guess, a vehicle, but it's paid off. It's just, from what I understand, nothing against him here. Okay, when I say this, apparently it's not a new car, a new vehicle. He gets by with very, very little, but he keeps himself in excellent shape, eats and drinks only good food and fluids, principally good water. Uh, and he seems to be living a very, very good life. And we might have to do the same thing. And I will keep my eyes and ears open, as I hope all of you will, that God will show us a place to go where we can be a true community, a true ecclesia, in the sense that it meant in the first century. Not the churches that you go to and do all those ceremonial rituals that, for by and large, mean nothing. And I don't want to offend anybody, but that's not the community that existed in the first century. They got together and they even argued. They'd even get you've heard the old statement, and this was even true of the first Christians, wherever you have three Jews together, you have five opinions. Well, that was also the case in the early church. It was the same thing. And eventually what they had to do is go to James uh, for a final judgment on a matter. And I frankly don't think he was always right. Uh, to say that he would make him God, and he wasn't, right? So whenever you deal with people, you're going to deal with certain levels of weakness, no matter what. But I do think that there's a movement now, because they're throwing us out. They're actually separating us out, and they're setting themselves up for destruction, for condemnation and destruction. And we have to look at it positively from that point of view. Not that we wish them any harm, although, again, if they come at you, you have a right to defend yourselves. But if God is separating out his remnant, and he gives us a place to gather, whether it be one place or many places that are doing the same thing, helping each other out, and then he destroys this evil system, well, I'm sorry, but they're the ones that pushed it. All right. I just wanted to come on and let you know how I'm feeling about things. Uh, I really do feel like separating myself, being reclusive for a little while. Felicia pointed out, she said to me today, she says, you've had a tough last 3, 4, 5 months, and that's really true. I think Roosevelt knows some of that as well, and maybe a few other people. And maybe I do just need a little time to replenish myself, to restore myself. By the way, I'm a sinful guy, okay? Not just I don't just do stupid stuff and sometimes even things I shouldn't. I actually sometimes just do plain sinful stuff. I'm not going to confess to you. That's not your business. Well, yeah, God knows that, and He and I talk about it a lot, actually. Uh, but a lot of that is out of frustration and trying to work through the issues. So I guess I'll just have to keep doing that. So that's really all I have tonight. Those of us who are being thrown out of the system are actually being shown the way into God's system. We should embrace this and we should gather together and help each other as best we can. It's not going to be easy because they're cutting off all of our support systems. But they're also going to do it to themselves. These evil people, they're doing it to themselves. Look at all the blue cities and states and how they're treating their people. Those are the people that support them in their Marxist agendas. And yet they're some of the ones that are suffering the most. For instance, the Washington State trooper that was either fired or resigned over this whole thing with the GMI from Governor Inslee. And he told Governor Kinsley to kiss his ass, right? If you all saw that, that's in a blue state. I think he was in Yakima, if I'm not mistaken. But still, it's in a blue state. So states are the ones that are doing most of the real damage to their people right now. That's not to say that the red states, and I don't like the fact that these are turned around. They should be the red and we should be blue. But regardless, uh, the Marxist states are the ones that are causing their people the most grief, and the more conservative uh, constitutional states, I'll put it that way, even though there are none, but the more so, we have a little more wiggle room. But they're bad too. They're just seeing how much they can get away with, and they'll go the whole way eventually. I'm waiting because I think God, God. I don't want a leadership position. I've been in leadership positions. I don't like it. Okay, I don't like it. Uh, so I'm not saying this because I have any interest in it. If somebody handed me the ring of Mordor, I wouldn't take it. Just like Gandalf did, I wouldn't take it. Forget that. All right, forget that. But if God wants you in a position, He will prepare the way for you to be in that position. So there's someone out there. You got to be careful because any savior that presents themselves now, you've got to look at with a jaundiced eye because they could actually be the deceiver, just like Trump has been. Okay, who led us into this path where now you're being forced to take demon seed in you, and he knows damn well what it is, and he still pushes it. But there is supposed to be someone raised up on the good side in the last days. There is supposed to be that person. A lot of people will say, well, it's Jesus himself. Not really. But if you want to believe that, that's fine. But I don't see it that way. I see something else happening prior to any major return of Jesus, okay? Something else has to occur. I just don't know where that's going to happen. It talks about that there would be, and a lot of people will think that this is talking about, the Middle East when Isaiah says, that the inhabitants of Zion are terrible. We can't go up and fight against the inhabitants of Zion because Zion is terrible. Well, that's not talking about the thing in Jerusalem. That's talking about something else. It's the concept of Zion. It's not Zionism. It's the context of the Lord's people. And they will be fearless because they will have weapons of destruction that they can wield against their enemies. They might not be the ones that we're most familiar with today. It talks about that in that time, one man will send his thousands to flight, and two men together will send their tens of thousands to flight. Something else is going to happen. I don't know what it is. I pray every day that will be shown those of us who have made these sacrifices and said, no, I will not comply. I will resist every evil thing you try to do. We should have done this when they were killing these young babies, these unborn and even post-birth babies. We should have stood up then, but they walled us in where we couldn't act without resorting to violence. And that really has been the thing that's kept us from acting. That's, I'm sure, the case. Those of those people who have gone out and acted with violence have paid a price. Was it worth it? I'm not prepared to say that, because they were taken out of the fight. Yeah, they stood up for it, but I'm not sure that was the wise path to go. So I'm waiting. I'm listening, I'm watching. And again, I'm not perfect. And I hope somebody out there is more perfect than I am and will be able to get this message about what to do. Okay? But we have to bond together. We have to support each other. We have to put in a system of some kind where we can keep our lines of communication, our lines of supply, our lines of relationships going and strong. And I do realize that sets you up as a target by this evil system, but I think that there's a way that this thing can be resolved. And I don't want to be so simple as to say God's going to have to supply the way. But in this circumstance, I don't see any other way. I've been talking too much already. I'm glad I got you back after they took me down. I'm really surprised. Man, what did I say that got him so upset? Yeah, we can't really do anything, George McDowell. You're right. They have trillions. They have all the weapons. They have the bioweapons. They have everything. And I realize that. But see, that's the interesting part, because as I heard somebody say the other day, David went ahead and picked up the rock and took his sling out and faced Goliath. And the Philistines and Goliath had all the weapons that would prevail. God likes a fight where the enemy thinks that he's at a disadvantage. I can only pray and hope that he will reach out. And protect all of you. He won't step in on and protect all of us, not in the way that you'd like. He's going to allow them to hurt a lot of us, because that'll seal their destruction, that'll seal their condemnation. Now, I don't like that, but I'm not running the show. And I found out a long time ago that I can't tell God how to do his job. Oh, I'd like to. Don't kid yourself. I try to bargain with him all the time. I have a friend that's been very successful at that, actually, a very righteous spiritual man. He's actually gone and done what Abraham did on several occasions. Abraham, when God came and said he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham bartered him down, basically got God to agree to go from 50 to 10 people. Right? He bargained with him, bartered with him, bargained with him, both actually. Sat down and let us reason as one man reasons with another face to face. Well, Abraham did that. And, of course, God couldn't find 10 righteous in Sodom to save it. But this friend of mine does the same thing. And what he does is he approaches God and talks to him like a son would, but also like an attorney. He comes out, I know it sounds, contraindicative. That's probably not how you pronounce that, but what he does is he approaches God in a prayer, and he lays out his case to God. I'm going to tell you one of those, okay? And I hope he doesn't mind. He often watches this program. I've never seen him actually comment here, but I'll tell you what he did. He had a friend that had a truck. That this truck was everything that this guy used for his business. It's how he survived. And he had this little business where he needed this truck to operate. Well, the truck was stolen out of his driveway. Okay, and he was without it for quite some time. Okay, the police couldn't find it. You know, they didn't know what happened. And this friend of mine uh, found out about this. It was sometime after, several weeks or several months later. And he went out and he got on his knees and he was praying to God. And he says, basically, this is what he did. He says, "Look, God, this isn't right. I mean, this man has been righteous. He's always helped other people. You know, when somebody was in need, he used his truck to go help them. You know, to get whatever they needed to help them do these things. He needs it to support his family. He's always been giving and loving. He is your servant." You know, he made this defense and this argument for this guy, right? Well, he got up and he went into his house and the phone rings. And it's this guy who had his truck stolen. And he says, "You'll never guess what just happened. I just had the police call me and say that they found my truck and that I can go pick it up." I mean, it happened within the hour. So it can happen. A lot of it's based on our own righteousness, which is probably why I'm not very successful at it. You know, bargaining with God, I'm not very successful at that, but there are people that are. And this man that I'm telling you about, that's not the only time this has happened with him. I've seen it happen time and time again. We need to be like that as best we can. And part of that is by putting pride down. Humility. Right, Liza Jean. You saw me going there, didn't you? We have to put down our own pride. We have to be humble. Now, humility is not what a lot of people think it is. Humility is nothing more than just telling the truth. If you're good at something and you say you're good at it, that's humility. But if you're not good at something and you say you're good at it, that's pride, right? Or if you really use your accomplishments to impress others, that's prideful too, right? Yeah, that kind of pride is not good. That's not humble either. All right. Well, we've been going 50 minutes this time. I'm not sure how long it went before it went down. I guess they got upset when I was talking about their system. I guess they didn't like that. Something I said that the AI didn't like. But regardless, we got back up. And thank you all for holding on and sticking with it. Yeah, defeating evil is not for sissies. Who said that? Rob Roy. Yeah, from Ireland, right? Rob Roy, wasn't that the guy from Ireland? I think it was Ireland. It may have been Scotland, but yeah. Liam Neeson played Rob Roy. I remember that. Pretty good movie. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. And defeating evil is not for sissies. And all of these people have shown that they're willing to stand up. I mean, nurses and doctors, even the few relatively that have walked off, and then the system says they're worried about, a health crisis, and then they allow this to happen. Not only allow it, they force it. But these doctors and nurses to leave the way they have, it shows their courage and their strength, and they're not sissies. And their suffering now will be rewarded with blessings beyond measure, I'm certain. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Stand up for the truth, even when it's not convenient to do so. Stand up for righteousness, even when it's not convenient for you to do so. Keep your situational awareness on high, because they're coming. Defend yourselves if you need to. Just know that if you do, it's probably not going to go well, but certainly you have every right in the world to do it. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Seek out like minded people. Seek out those who have placed all on the line and refused to bow to the world's idols. You all take care.